Mrs. Kindly lives in a cottage by the railway. She loves trains and waves when they go by. Once, when she was ill in bed, she saved Thomas from an accident. The Fat Controller sent her to Bournemouth to get well. Thomas and Toby missed her greatly and looked forward to welcoming her home again. Toby saw her first. "Peep, peep, peep!" he whistled. "There's Mrs. Kindly!" And he happily rang his bell. His driver, fireman and passengers all waved to welcome him home. Thomas was pleased too. His trains were heavy at Christmas time. "I can't do it. I can't do it," he panted sometimes. But Mrs. Kindly cheered him on. "Oh, yes I can!" he would puff bravely, forgetting hard work. Thomas had never forgotten how she had saved him from the landslide, and always wanted to thank her properly. Toby agreed with him, and so did their drivers and firemen. "Let's give her a party at Christmas time," they said. "But where can we hold it?" they wondered. "Our shed is much too small. There's no room for anyone else when we're inside." But Thomas's driver wouldn't give up. "Let's try Tidmouth," he said. "I'm sure the big engines would like a party in their grand new shed. We'll ask when we're there tonight." The big engines were delighted, and so were their drivers and firemen. "We'd like that," they said. "A party will be fun. We'll ask the Fat Controller in the morning." "A party for Mrs. Kindly?" said the Fat Controller when he heard. "What a good idea of Thomas's. Let me see. We've no trains on Christmas or Boxing Day. We all want Christmas at home, of course. So, Boxing Day will be best." So they made an invitation card and sent it to Mr. and Mrs. Kindly. "Thomas, Toby and friends request the pleasure of the company of Mr. and Mrs. Kindly at a party at the new engine shed, Tidmouth, on Boxing Day at 5 p.m. RSVP, Sir Topham Hatt, Wellsworth, Sodor." Thomas and Toby were with the big engines at Tidmouth Shed for Christmas, while Annie, Clarabelle and Henrietta joined the other coaches in theirs. They were looking forward to the party, and were so warm and snug they had forgotten about the weather outside, until the Fat Controller burst in. "The weather has changed," he called out. "It's snowing hard at Farquhar. Mr. and Mrs. Kindly are cut off. We'll need snowplows to fetch them tomorrow." "What about it, Thomas?" asked the Fat Controller. He knew that Thomas hated snow. "I'll try, sir," he said bravely. "We must rescue them. We must." "Can I help, sir?" asked Toby. "That's a good engine," smiled the Fat Controller. "You two will manage splendidly." Early the next morning, Thomas and Toby were fitted with snowplows and arranged back to back with a van carrying workmen coupled between them. They charged the snowdrifts fiercely. Sometimes they swept the snow aside. Sometimes they stuck fast. When they stuck, they drew back so the men from the van could loosen the hard packed snow. Then on they went again. It was tiring work for everybody. But at the cutting near the cottage, they could go no further. "Look at that!" exclaimed Thomas's fireman. "Peep, peep, peep! Here we are!" whistled Thomas. The snow was so deep around the house that the answer came from an upstairs window. "Toot, toot, toot! So are we!" came from behind the cottage. "That's Terence!" Thomas called excitedly. "He's come to help too!" Sure enough, Terence had a snowplow and was working hard to clear the road. The two parties met. Terence's gang promised to help clear the snow from around the house, whilst the railway gang dug a path from the house to the line. Meanwhile, at Tidmouth, Henrietta was being swept, dusted and decorated as never before. She felt very proud of herself, and when she was ready, Percy, who had also been given a snowplough, took her to Elsbridge to wait for Thomas and Toby. The two engines soon arrived and had a good rest and clean-up before scampering back up the line with Henrietta to fetch Mr. and Mrs. Kindly. While Percy took the workmen back to Tidmouth in their van. It was dark when they finally reached Tidmouth. The shed doors were shut. There was dead silence, and there was no one around to meet them. Peep, peep, peep! They whistled despairingly. Where is everyone? Suddenly, a chorus of cheers and whistles came from the shed. Lights in the yard flashed on, and the shed doors slowly opened. Merry Christmas hung in coloured lights inside. Sir Topham Hatt and Lady Hatt welcomed Mr. and Mrs. Kindly, and everyone gave them 3 cheers. Mrs. Kindly asked at once to see the engines. "We're honoured," said Gordon, Henry and Edward. Then Mrs. Kindly especially thanked the smaller engines. "Thomas and Toby are old friends," she said, "and now, Percy, you are my friend too." Percy was so pleased he bubbled over. "3 cheers for Mrs. Kindly," he called. "Beep, beep, beep!" And they all whistled. The fat controller held his ears, but everyone else laughed and joined in. Meanwhile, the Christmas tree had been rolled into position, ready for the cows singing to begin. They sang all their old favourites till their voices gave out, and then they were refreshed with hot coffee and mince pies. They pulled crackers and played games and had a splendid time, till all too soon it was time for the party to end. "Ladies, gentlemen, and engines," boomed the fat controller, "we are here to honour a gracious lady who, last Christmas, did our railway a great service. We all hope, Mrs. Kindly, that you will accept this free travel pass over our railway. May you have a long life and health to enjoy it." Cheers followed, and to the tune of "For she's a jolly good fellow," punctuated by whistles. Sir Topham Hatt and Lady Hatt took Mr. and Mrs. Kindly away to stay with them at Wellsworth until the weather improved. The last guest left, and the shed doors were closed. "What a lovely party," said Edward. "Thank you, Thomas, Toby and Percy." "And so say all of us," hummed Gordon. No one finished the song. Tired and happy, they were all fast asleep.